Okay, let's call this meeting to order. This is the regular city council business meeting for Wednesday, February 2021. Let's rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for
which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and justice.
for all.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Rogers, please, or I'm sorry, Grace.
Yes. Okay, Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Reese,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
President Rossonetti.
Present.
That's all 7 here.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Councilman Scaringi.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to accept the City Council meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to move on to public comments. So city residents are welcome to call in. You will have 5 minutes to speak on city issues, and please be respectful. Grace, could you please read that number?
Let me just plug this in really quick. Okay, the number to call for public comment is 607-772-7101. Again, it's 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, I need your full name and address. Give me 1 second. Okay, this is John Solak. His address is Lathrop Ave. You have 5 minutes.
Hello. Today at the IDA meeting, a transfer was made of a payment in lieu of taxes, and that is the student housing complex formerly owned by Newman Development. The building was sold, and the pilot went with it with no application, no investigation, no renegotiation of any type. Now, these pilots are put in place, and the logic behind them is job creation and jump starting. Well, the economic effect of the formerly Newman housing project is over with. And now he transfers the payment. And this is not the only property currently that's for sale with a payment in lieu of taxes attached to it. But if you look at it, what this involves is a flip and a tremendous capital gain solely due to the payment in lieu of taxes. And to automatically renew these things is absurd. To not have citizen input and see exactly when you're in midstream on these things, what the economic effect is or isn't, is disastrous. So that is a very, very bad situation. I note that the university opened up an ice skating rink, and it made it clear in the press conference that the ice skating rink is only for faculty, staff, and students. Now, what's the big deal, you say? Well, here is, we're all told about the close relationship between the city and the university. very poor optics, shows the university for what it is, a bunch of elitists who want to use the city or Johnson City or Endicott when it's beneficial to them. And when it's not beneficial to them, well, that's when the relationship ends. So that's interesting. Now, nobody knows what's going on with this intelligence center. No one knows why the extra space is suddenly needed. No one knows who's going to pay the city rent, if the city is going to collect any rent. It's a city of a declining population. It's a city that is not making any progress. Who's getting rich in the city is simply student landlords who've carved up property. And today I tell you that the next mayor must address, the next council, sure as shooting, a complete reassessment of the city of Binghamton, because there is absolutely no reason for homeowners to pay $5, $6, $7, $10, $12, $20,000 worth of taxes, who can't rent a room on Airbnb, while you have this clique, mostly of ex-Binghamton University students, that are making all kinds of money with bars and restaurants and so-called student housing. In other words, jam as many people into a house as you can, collect $700.
You have 1 minute left?
Now, this is absolutely absurd. Again, the total focus on the university, when most city residents have nothing to do with the university, is absurd. The absolute fact that the downtown is being subsidized completely and totally by the poor homeowners of Binghamton is another absolute fact. What you need in a mayor is a person that is not hooked up to the past mistakes of the narratives. And by the way, we spent $5 million on the stadium, and guess what? The league that was making demands is defunct. Congratulations to Councilman Scaringi for being the only sane person to vote against that $5 million debacle.
Your time is up.
Thank you. Residents at home are still welcome to call in. Can you?
Yes.
tell the number again, please?
The number to call is 772-7101, 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, what is your address? Okay, let me put you on hold really. Not on hold, on speaker, sorry. Okay, this is Alexis. The address is 49 Pine Street.
Something weird is just like on my end. Did that fix the problem?
I think we're good now.
I'm sorry.
I think you're good now?
Okay. So greetings. My name is Alexis Luce. I'm calling from Truth Farm. I wanted to raise some concerns. Well, I'm curious, is this an entire city council meeting? Like there's only 2 city council people here? Is that accurate?
What was the question?
No, they're on go-to meeting. They're online. They're here.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm calling to express some concerns about the city's process in distributing the CDBG funds, and I think that the city council should be aware of it. First of all, when there was an announcement about CDBG funds that were available related to COVID, I emailed and asked how a nonprofit would apply for those funds, and I was told there is no formal application process. And I have all these emails I can provide them to city council members. I was told there's no formal application process. So I wrote up proposals and sent them in for consideration. When the recent announcement came out for the funding, I received an email that provided the list of the projects that were funded, and I noticed immediately that one of the projects that we submitted for funding was not even listed as a project that had been applied for. And so I emailed Stephen Carson and asked, what happened. I had submitted an application, and I will quote back the first couple lines of his email to me. I do apologize. It looks like it was lost in the shuffle. I don't understand how the city could find this process to be acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Furthermore, the COVID funds that were released by the federal government were supposed to get in the hands of the community as quickly as possible. And here we are a year later, finally awarding them, and there was no application formal process. And then nonprofits that submitted applications, their applications were lost in the shuffle. And I just find it to be absolutely outrageous. If you look at the funding list on the spreadsheet that was sent out, they seem to have applied buckets of funding for causes or things, and they don't even know which nonprofit they're going to award them to. There's one that says unknown, CHOW with a question mark, Binghamton Schools with a question mark, another one that says unknown, Family Enrichment Network with a question mark, and then pots of money, which they haven't even decided who they're going to distribute them to yet. And then Truth Farm had submitted an application that's completely lost in the shuffle and not awarded because it was lost in the shuffle. The other application that we had submitted, the city of Binghamton had advertised that there was money available to nonprofits and small businesses. I emailed that email address and asked for the application. I was sent the application. I started to fill out the application, and I felt like the application was more appropriate for businesses than nonprofits. So I replied to the email and said, this seems to be like it's for businesses, not nonprofits. Can you help me out? What do I do here? They said, just fill it out the best you can. So I did. Never heard back on it. I emailed them twice. Finally, the second time I got an answer back, and they said, you used the wrong application. And I said, well, that's weird. Let me forward you our email exchange where you sent me this application. I questioned it specifically, saying that it looked like it was for businesses, not nonprofits. You told me to use it anyways.
You have 1 minute left.
The wrong application. And then Stephen Carson was copied in on that email as well. And Stephen Carson replied and said, oh, Paul's mistaken. Your application was reviewed. It just wasn't awarded. I think you have a problem there at the city. I mean, it's I don't think it's a secret to anyone that the mayor is not a fan of Truth Farm because we affiliate with other local organizations. But the problem is you have federal funds that the city has an obligation to distribute and appropriate in an appropriate manner. It needs to be a transparent process, and I think that you need to look into the city's obligations in terms of how to distribute CDBG funds in a manner that doesn't work with favoritism. Like, it has to be a proper process, proper application. Applications can't get lost in the shuffle. That's not an appropriate way to handle local nonprofits who are serving the community.
Your time is up.
I'm sorry?
Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you, Grace, could you please say the number one more time?
The number to call is 772-7101, 772-7101. Hi, you're calling for public comment? Okay, full name and address. Okay, let me put you on speaker. This is Tina Chronopoulos. She lives on Laurel Avenue. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Tina Konopoulos, and my representative on council is Sofia Resediti. I'm here this evening to comment on a number of things. The first is the mayor's appearance on the radio show Binghamton Now 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, the 2nd of February. At the very end of the interview, Bob Joseph asked the mayor about the criticism by the community of the mayor's handling of police reform in the city. As you may recall, even though the mayor announced that he'd be putting together a task force last summer, he failed to actually convene it until this January, thus making it highly unlikely that the effort would be a true collaborative and cooperative effort, because this kind of effort actually requires more than a couple of months of deep conversations. But I digress. What I really want to talk about is the mayor's characterization of the various community groups who held several meetings last summer and fall in different parts of the city to engage different neighborhoods in conversations about what they wanted to see as anti-police hate groups. You may be aware that hate groups advocate and practice hatred, hostility, or violence towards members of a race, ethnicity, nation, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, or any other designated sector of society. Most of the above are circumstances of birth. People are not born police. People choose the profession of a law enforcement officer. Let me also remind you, in case you did not catch this piece of information, that more law enforcement officers were harmed in the Capitol attacks in January this year than in any other event since the 9/11 attacks. So for anyone to be going around crying foul about how there are anti-police hate groups at work, please think about the fact that the mob, consisting of Trump-supported Proud Boys and various other assorted white nationalists, supposedly people that respect and love the police, stormed the Capitol. That mob was more brutal towards police officers than all the protesters from last year's uprising combined. So let me just say that it's quite troubling to me to hear an elected official mischaracterize 5 community advocacy groups as anti-police hate groups simply because they're actively engaged in the conversation around police reform and have some concrete ideas on how things could be improved in our city. There is more. At the end of his comments, the mayor said the following, and I quote, "I am going to do what I think is best for the community. And where there are areas that I agree, and there are some areas I agree, I will advance. And I'm open to those sorts of things. And areas that I don't agree, I'm not just going to be pressured," unquote. So the last time I checked the wording of the governor's executive order, there was nothing in there to suggest that the mayor of the city has the final say on what goes into the reform plan and what doesn't. Mayor David seems to have forgotten that the process is supposed to be a cooperative one, and that the entire committee makes the plan, not him, right? It sounds as though he thinks that he has the ultimate authority when it comes to the police reform collaborative. I hope you can see how problematic this is. The other thing I want to talk about is the mayor's plan, which he talked about to council last night at your working session. If it will receive state aid or federal funding. In other words, filling these 8 vacancies would mean that the city once more would need to dip into its contingency fund. Isn't it the case that the city's ranking in terms of its municipal bonds is not especially fantastic? Why do you keep insisting on increasing the city's financial debts and obligations, especially when the city is currently engaged in its reform process? As I mentioned before, there is no good reason to have the number of offices kept at almost the same number as it was in the 1970s. What the city needs to do to deal with its serious poverty, homelessness, mental health issues, is to be brave and funnel money into affordable housing, homeless shelters, and robust mental health care. Finally, I'd like to comment on the way that you all operate. Why is it that you
have 1 minute left
to the last minute and expedite a lot of legislation? When I checked the City Council's webpage this morning for the agenda and the packet, nothing was there. Surely you can give the public as well as City Council members at least 24 hours notice. If I'm not wrong, most of you on City Council work full time and likely will have gotten out of work not so long ago. How is a responsible council person supposed to read, let alone digest and research ordinances and other paperwork in a compressed short of time? To me, that looks like not much respect for the time and energy put forth by City Council members, and at worst, a way of pressuring people to just rubber stamp things so that they don't scrutinize them too closely or ask too many questions, which, as I've mentioned before, some of you almost never do, and some of you seem to find supremely annoying when your fellow City Council members do it. And since I have a couple of seconds left, I would like to second what the first speaker said about tax assessment in the city, which is ridiculous. And I I absolutely second the second speaker also. I find it extremely troubling that paperwork was lost
Your
in
time
these
is up.
fumbles. You cannot be serious.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Can you please read that over again?
The number to call is 772-7101, 772-7101.
Want to read it one more time?
Yeah. 772-7101, 772-7101.
Okay, we can move on. There are no more callers, so thank you to everyone who called in. So let's move on. Yes.
Madam President, point of information, I apologize. I just wanted to get it on the record. The motion that I made earlier for approval of the minutes was for the business meeting on February 3rd of this year. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so let's move on to the preferred agenda. Would anyone like to put anything from the preferred agenda before we move on? Okay, thank you. Grace, introduce the preferred agenda items, please.
The first one we have is introductory ordinance 21-18, consider finance. An ordinance to amend the 2021 capital budget to accept an energy savings rebate from NISAC for pump replacement.
Any questions, comments? Okay.
Next, introductory ordinance 21-19, an ordinance to amend the 2021 city clerk's budget for personal services.
Any comments? Okay, thank you.
Introductory ordinance 21-20, considered in finance, an ordinance to amend the 2021 finance budget for personal services and temporary services.
Any questions or comments? Okay, next, Grace.
Introductory resolution 21-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor to extend the intermunicipal agreement with Broome County for operation of the First Ward Senior Center Kitchen for the county-sponsored senior citizen meal program.
Questions or comments? Okay, next.
Introductory resolution 21-11, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of youth baseball and softball equipment from Pitch In for baseball and softball valued at $1,341.
Questions or comments? Next.
Introductory resolution 21-12, a resolution to amend permanent resolution 21-04 to correct a budget line.
Questions or comments? Okay, next.
Introductory resolution 21-13, a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the contract with Family Enrichment Network for ESG COVID contract.
Any questions, comments? Okay, we now need a motion to approve the preferred agenda.
So moved, Madam President.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye. Did you hear me? Somebody's mic is,
I did hear. Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rossetti,
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. And it looks like we have nothing under the unofficial agenda today, so we're going to move on to communication from council members. And it looks like we have Councilman Burns going up first tonight.
Thank you, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. I had to move to another room at the beginning of the meeting. I think that I forget who was speaking, but suddenly I had to move here at home, and I think my mic was open, and you probably heard my move. Anyway, the police reimagining, reinvention is still going on. We have our final meeting tomorrow at 6:30 for public comment. And well, it'll be the final meeting that is scheduled. We're all going to meet then after to decide what the outcome will be and what will be presented to City Council. So I urge everyone to listen in. And if you have any comments that you want put in, you can, if you want to write to me at jburns@cityofbinghamton.com, and we can chat about getting your ideas into it or how you can do it. And that's about all I have. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Now on to Councilman Strawn.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just want to thank Councilman Burns and Councilman Scanlon for working on that committee. I hope a lot of good things come out of that. I'm encouraged by it, what I hear. And I think it's going to be some good stuff. I don't have much else. I encourage everybody to, if you have the opportunity, to strongly consider getting the vaccination. Talk to a lot of people. The second one, sometimes you get a little bumpiness, but nothing. I haven't heard anything bad. So as we move towards spring, hopefully with this crazy winter and maybe some normalcy, I would just encourage everyone to stay strong and vigilant, keep working together so we can conquer this thing and move forward. So with that, hopefully it'll be closer to spring next time we meet, and have a good night.
Thank you. Councilman Scanlon, you're next.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to mention a thank you to the Binghamton Police CRT team. They were able to execute a search warrant in a house in my district, which it's about a year ago I told about this house, and it's crazy to think it takes a year sometimes to gather evidence to satisfy New York State to execute these search warrants on these houses where known drug dealers are. But I want to thank them for doing their job and doing it well. It takes time. It's frustrating for the neighbors to watch this thing for a year, but in the end, it works out. And I'm sure I'm not unique in this. It's every district and every city has these issues, but I seem to get one phone call a week about a new drug house in my district, which is discouraging. But fortunately, like I said, we get the CR team involved in this one, and they were able to arrest some people in that house, and hopefully a different family moves in the house and things get better there. So I'm hopeful for that. Madam President, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilman Scarinci.
Thank you, Madam President. Similarly, I just want to thank the BPD. They actually were called out to a situation in the first district within the last 2 days regarding an individual, and they were right on there, spoke to the homeowners and the residents in the area, had nothing but incredible positive things to say, taking a hold of the situation. So I just want to thank them for that. And equally with this snowy winter that we have, just keep in the back of your mind your neighbors, our city workers who are picking up our garbage at 6 in the morning, our Parks Department employees and DPW workers who are doing a great job keeping our streets and our sidewalks clean to the best that they can. And just be mindful of your neighbors, especially with tomorrow. I think we're supposed to be getting another snowstorm starting at 4 or so in the morning. And hope everyone is well. Stay warm and stay safe. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President Rezanetti and my fellow council members. I echo the sentiment of Councilman Scaringi when he says, let's make sure we are looking out for our neighbors and our friends. This is February, as I've highlighted before. This is Black History Month, a month where we celebrate the victories, the excellence of those around us who represent the Black and people of color in and around Binghamton and in the world. So we did have a great celebration, but as with everything else, it was via Zoom, so we were not able to celebrate in person, but that does not limit the engagement and the enthusiasm. I'd also like to highlight, I want to thank the callers for bringing to our attention certain things in the community. Without the voice of the community, be it via email or during public comment, some things we just miss, and I appreciate that feedback. So as this collaborative surrounding reimagining police convenes, I hope we get as many participants to verbalize their thoughts around what's happening. Um, it Sometimes you get tired, especially if you feel as if your voice goes unheard. But I just leave this message of press on. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to take this time to read into the record the comment that I wrote to submit to the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. Problems with the police are not an issue of good apples or bad apples, but rather the location of the apple tree. Meaning, it's the situations where we decide police are necessary by definition of their job. Police are required to respond to all sorts of emergency calls, even if the situation would be better served by a different professional. Many times, situations are automatically escalated by the presence of a police officer, even if that officer is professional, respectful, and follows protocols to a T. In my reimagining of policing and community safety, I picture decoupling police from nonviolent, non-threatening public safety situations. We've heard from a multitude of community members who have posited that a mental health crisis or drug overdose would fall under this umbrella. And I'd like to propose an additional facet of policing, which I don't believe has yet been addressed: traffic monitoring. In an article entitled "What Traffic Enforcement Without Police Could Look Like," published last month on The Appeal, Meg O'Connor writes, quote, "In an article in Stanford Law Review, Jordan Blair Woods, a criminologist and legal scholar at the University of Arkansas School of Law, puts forth a framework for how local governments can disentangle traffic enforcement from the police department. Under the framework, local governments would reassign most traffic enforcement to separate traffic agencies that are independent from the police department. The agencies would employ unarmed monitors to enforce traffic laws, though exceptions would be made for violations that involve certain crimes that police would still investigate, like hit and runs or driving a stolen vehicle. Traffic agencies would also handle any automated traffic enforcement, taking the responsibility to review red light cameras and issue tickets away from the police," end quote. Berkeley, California has already put forth a proposal to implement a program like this. Binghamton could do just the same. Quoting O'Connor again, "Black drivers are 20% more likely to be stopped than white drivers, and as much as twice as likely to be searched, according to a study of 100 million traffic stops conducted by the Stanford Open Policing Project. And 11% of all fatal shootings by police in 2015 occurred during traffic stops, according to a Washington Post database of police killings. This is a clear end quote. This is a clear situation where an armed police officer would not be necessary to respond, and the job could be effectively filled by another unarmed employee. I would also be remiss if I didn't voice my frustration and anger at the process implemented in this collaborative. I'm angered at the implication that grassroots groups who have worked for months to collect community input about community safety reimagination are called hate groups in order to discredit the valuable work that they are doing. What do they allegedly hate? Police brutality, racism, having months of planning, preparation, and execution of exactly what Governor Cuomo is calling for in these collaboratives be disregarded? Because I hate that too. According to the FBI, a hate group's primary purpose is to promote animosity, hostility, and malice against persons belonging to a race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity or national origin which differs from that of the members of the organization. It is not only irresponsible, but incorrect and dangerous to conflate a group of community members who are soliciting public input about community safety and an actual hate group. Imagine a forum on accessibility where people who use wheelchairs attested to a lack of elevators or ramps, and deaf folks requested sign language interpreters, and blind folks asked for Braille signs. Imagine further that able-bodied folks came to the forum to give testimonies about how easy it is to walk into the building, how they can hear the lectures just fine, and how the signage in the building is nice and clear. That would be ridiculous. The addition of ramps, interpreters, and Braille makes that building more accessible to those who need it and continues to function just the same for those who do not. This is what we are doing right now by speaking over those who are desperately advocating for change. Why are we considering the voices of those for whom the police department works just fine when we should be heeding the solutions proposed by those for whom it does not? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for all your comments tonight, and thank you to our callers. Stay warm, stay safe, and with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight.
So moved, Madam President.
Second.
Second.